Welcome to The Amy Gregory Show, the show where real estate gets a reality check and success doesn't require burnout. I'm Amy, your straight shooting, pep talk in your pocket host who took the real estate world by storm with zero cold calls, no door knocking, and a firm no thanks to working 50-hour weeks. 8 years ago, I jumped into real estate with both feet, 3 kids, and a baby on the way. In my rookie year, I broke every rule in the book, earning 6 figures working just 10 hours a week. The industry was shocked. I wasn't. Now, I lead a powerhouse team of over 500 female solo agents nationwide, host retreats, create online courses, and sit proudly in the top 10 of my brokerage with over 85,000 agents. My mission? To help women like you scale your business, trust your intuition, and redefine what success looks like on your terms. So if you're ready to play big, ditch the hustle culture, and build a business that fits your life, not the other way around, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. A person can learn any new skill by dedicating 20 hours of planned practice to that skill. Breaking down practice sessions into 45 minutes of practice a day can lead you to learn a new skill in as little as a month. So glad you're joining me today on this episode of The Amy Gregory Show. We are going to be jumping into the new rules of social media because, as per usual, the rules have changed and it is time to dig into all of the metrics and understand what is working right now. So I'm leading with the idea that a person can learn any new skill by dedicating 20 hours of planned practice time to that skill. Because I'm going to guess when I said that the rules have changed again, your heart probably sunk a little bit and you thought, okay, well, I didn't even understand the rules before and now the rules have changed. And it can lead you to feeling overwhelmed, discouraged, distracted, frustrated, all of the things that prevent you from making progress in the thing that you want to make progress to. So anytime I'm feeling that way, I go back to studies and metrics to understand, like, why am I feeling that way and how can I get myself out of that funk? Because being in that funk is a normal part. I call it the cost of doing business. So another line I use on myself on a regular basis is that if I just spend 18 minutes every single day on one specific task, that over time and within a year, I will be better than 95% of the entire population. And so sometimes what happens is our brain wants to trick us into thinking that we have to eat the whole elephant in one bite, when in reality it's in 18-minute bites every single day. So if I'm feeling that block, that wall of I don't know where to start, I literally set a timer for 20 minutes and say, I'm just going to work on it for 20 minutes. And by the time that timer goes off, I'm usually in a rhythm where I can keep going and I'm making headway and I'm seeing progress. And once your brain starts to see positive progress, it typically will keep going. So this is important to remember, that your brain is your body's biggest muscle and you need to train it like a muscle. You need to train it to think. Today, though, we are going to jump into the new rules of social media. If you're new here, I started my real estate career when I was 34 years old. I'm an Enneagram 8, which means I don't want to say I like to break the rules. I instead understand which rules matter, and I'm willing to break the ones that don't matter. I am a mom to 4 kids. I'm kind of a marketing nerd. I work part-time hours, and I fall into the category of a geriatric millennial, which basically means I grew up playing Oregon Trail and maybe died of dysentery a million times in computer lab. But I also got I got a cell phone when I was in college. And so I grew up writing 5-paragraph essays, but then also was able to quickly adapt to cell phones and the way cell phones work. And what's really great about that is it's almost like my brain has 2 parts to it, and I can kind of merge those 2 parts. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the new rules of social media, because social media is not based on followers anymore. It is based on interest. You are in a game of attracting attention. And so if you want attention, you have to make yourself attractive. And I don't mean in the physical terms of like, oh, make yourself look cute. There's nothing, in fact, more annoying than when someone says, oh, your Instagram works because you're cute. If you want to see the Enneagram 8 in me, that Enneagram 8 is like always is willing. I don't mind confrontation. I will set you straight on that one. It's about being attractive to the person that is seeking the answers that you hold. And so how do you package up those answers in a way that they can pick up very easily, and you remove all of that friction, right? So why does this even matter? Maybe you're like, Amy, this is so great, but I close transactions. I don't want to be posting reels. I don't want to be dancing on TikTok. I don't want to be doing any of those things. You need to remember that the best marketer always becomes the best agent. They always say, oh, the best marketer wins. Well, what does that even mean? The best marketer wins because the best marketer will end up doing the most deals, which in turn turns them into the best agent. So they might not be the best agent when they start. Maybe they're just the best marketer when they start. But if you're the best marketer, you bring in the most deals, and then you do all those deals, and through that process, you turn into the best agents. So the social shift, the new rules of social media, views are now determined by interest instead of followers. Okay, so it's by interest instead of followers. This is really important because so many of you are like, well, Amy, that's so easy for you to say with your 100,000 followers, but everyone started at 0. And trust me when I tell you, it is so much easier to grow on social media now than it was when I got started. So now that interest is viewed, now that views are determined by interest, this means smaller accounts can compete with bigger accounts. If you make content that people actually want to watch, you'll be rewarded with views and engagement. The algorithm will serve your content up to exactly who you want to talk to. And I'm going to tell you, you're the biggest problem in this whole scenario, because you're like, well, I'll do any deal. I'll talk to anyone. And in doing that, you confuse the algorithm. You're like, let me talk to buyers over here, and then let me talk to sellers that are 45 minutes away. And oh my gosh, you want a cabin up in the mountains? Let me talk to you about that. And oh, you need a VA loan? Let me talk to you about that. And oh, now let's talk about new construction. Can you see how it's like, well, yes, it's all real estate, but you're talking to 5 different audiences. There's actually an agent inside of Powerhouse. Her name is Julie Ford. And she has recently gone viral talking about multi-generational living. And it's not like she's living in some huge market. She's living in a normal suburb, and she is going viral talking about how to buy and sell and live and function inside a multi-generational home. This is how niche down you can get in your interests. And when you niche down, the algorithm brings you those people. So let's talk about it just a little bit. Social media is going to be your best distribution, but in order to use it, you must be willing to give people something to talk about. So you're going to have to let them talk about you. And this is code for not everyone is going to like you. And that is the point. So I want you to think about your content like a magnet. And the thing about a magnet is it will pull itself to another magnet, but it will also, if you flip it the other way, it'll repel itself from another magnet. And your goal is actually to repel some people with your content. So we want to understand exactly who you're talking to and why it matters. If you're not sure who you're talking to or why it matters, I want you to jump into your stories, and you need to start understanding your community inside your Instagram stories by asking good questions. One of the best hacks I have for figuring out what's going to go viral is posting on my stories every single day. And some days I'm more lively than others. I know people will say, oh my gosh, well, that's just exhausting. I don't have anything to say. Or maybe you're going through a hard time in your personal life. And I just want to remind you that it's your job. It's your job to bring in more deals. It's your job to help more people buy and sell houses. It's your job to make it easy for them to find you. It is your job to talk about real estate every single day. And so just like your kids' school teachers show up, even if something's going on at home and the doctor shows up and the person at the cash register shows up, you need to show up too. You need to require that of yourself. A lot of times I hear agents talking like, yeah, I want to like build this huge business, but then they're not willing to sacrifice anything. They're still going to go to lunch with their friends or go to Target or play tennis or do this or do that. And it's like, well, you're saying one thing, but you're behaving a different way. So if you want social media to work for you, you need to be willing to sit down and learn and learn it. One of the ways I do this inside my Instagram stories is by asking good questions. So I might say, walking houses this weekend, what's most important to you when looking at a new home? And I will create like a multiple choice button that they can pick. And I might say, is the kitchen the most important? Is the location the most important? Price point? What's the most important thing? And then you go and you look at that data so you understand, okay, they really care about kitchens. They really care about the lot size or the location, right? And as you do this and you keep asking these questions, you start to really get to know your audience so that then you can bring them what they want. So if your goal is to find sellers, on your first slide in your Instagram stories, you're going to say something like, I just ran equity reports for 2 different sellers, both had over $85,000 of equity in their homes. The next slide, you might say, want to know how much equity you have in your home? Drop your address here and I'll give you an exact number. This is how we're lead generating inside of Instagram stories. And you do want to you can go and run home equity reports for 2 different buyers or sellers that you worked with a couple of years ago and send that information to them. Hey, did you realize that you have X amount of equity in your home? You can refinance, you can pull that out and renovate your home. You can use that equity to buy another house. Like, start conversations, give them something to think about, and they will keep coming back. Now, one of the other things I do, so that's how I operate inside my Instagram stories, is I'm always kind of asking those questions. And then I'm looking at the data and like what people say. So often people aren't willing to check their analytics. So I check my analytics on Instagram every single week. So I understand what content is already performing well. And if it's already performing well, we want to repost that content. And so if you commit to 90 days of posting every single day, you can take the top third of that, so 30 pieces of content, and then you can like remix it, so to speak, like have a remix of it. And then you have another 30 days of content, and you can like keep reposting your content in a way, and then you start to niche down, and you can start to see how now your account becomes really interest based as opposed to follower based. So one of the things, this is a tool I love to use. It's called Keywords Everywhere. And this is really important because now Instagram is searchable on Google. So you can, like, when you Google something, Instagram content is going to show up in Google searches. So the question then becomes, how do you show up in a Google search? And the tool I love to use is called Keywords Everywhere. Go ahead and write that down, Keywords Everywhere. Because your goal here is to help the right people find your content and hit follow. So you want to create a library of keywords based on your content. And I actually hacked this from a YouTuber, and they talked about like how they figured out how their content goes viral on YouTube, and they used Keywords Everywhere. Another one that is used on YouTube is called TubeBuddy. I don't even know if that one's good. I haven't tried it before, but I've heard of it. The one I use is Keywords Everywhere, and I'm looking at like the cost per click and what people are paying to like for ad spend on that cost per click. And I like my metrics to hit between 0.3 and 0.7 on that cost per click column. And that tells me that my account can kind of start, it can start to show up organically inside those Google searches. And so I'll give you some of the Google searches that I often like to participate in. Some of them would be like things to do in Mesa, Arizona, moving costs from Chicago to Phoenix. Phoenix is an inbound state, and a lot of people, surprisingly, I Googled, well, who's moving into Phoenix? Like, what cities are moving into Phoenix? Chicago is one of them. That's important data for you to know as a real estate agent, right? Because then all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool, let me pay more attention to agents in Chicago that are listing agents because their buyers might be moving to Phoenix, right? And you can organically meet each other on Instagram and take that referral and bring that deal in. Moving from Seattle to Phoenix, Seattle is another one. Moving from California to Phoenix, moving to Arizona. Where is the best place to live in Arizona? Best neighborhoods in Phoenix, best neighborhoods in Scottsdale. And I'm going to get really, really granular with you on this. I have all of those phrases. Let me see how many it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have all of those 8 phrases inside a note on my phone, and I will copy those phrases. And when I'm doing a reel, I will literally paste those onto the video of the reel and shrink them way down so that you can't even see them. But Instagram views that as like, oh, that's type on the video. So that I'm just going to tell Instagram, these are the people I'm looking for. And then guess what Instagram does? They go and bring me those people. And so this is how agents are getting 1 to 2 closings a month using Instagram for free, right? And so you do that every single day or every single month or every single, like you do it just repetitively, and you can see how it creates this huge flywheel inside your business where now suddenly people are consuming your content, they're connecting with you, they're engaging with you, they're DMing you, they're commenting, and you're starting to get this circular communication loop here where they're telling you what they need, and you're gonna be like, great, I can go and produce that for you. So that's one thing we want to do. And then the other thing we're going to start to do, so you're starting to create content that looks like things to do in Mesa, Arizona this weekend. Okay, cool. You're a real estate agent. You have someone coming into town, and I would say, okay, if that's my reel, things to do in, your city and state this weekend, then I'm going to have a caption that relates to that. I'm going to share 3 to 5 things. Hey, these are 3 to 5 things to do this weekend. And frankly, like I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I love February in Phoenix because every 5 years it seems like we have the Super Bowl. The Phoenix Open is in February. The Barrett-Jackson Car Show is in February. And that is actually when our market surges. So I work really hard in January and February to really lead generate a ton, because all of those people that come into town in February from Chicago, the Midwest, the Northwest, those are all the people that are moving to Phoenix. They're here in February, and they're here for the Super Bowl, they're here for the Barrett-Jackson Car Show, or they're here for golfing. And so I'm going to say, okay, here's all the things to do. And then here's the kicker is you don't just post that and have a caption and then just leave them hanging. You then have a many chat automation that says, comment, live like a local, or whatever it is, to download my free guide to living like a local in Phoenix, Arizona. And then they are going to give you their email address, and you're going to send them that free guide. And this can all be, you can create that guide in Canva. You can use ChatGPT to help you create that guide. And then you set up that ManyChat automation, and all of a sudden now you have this little system that every single Thursday, maybe that's something you're posting. Hey, things to do this weekend in Phoenix, Arizona. There's actually a great account on Instagram. I think it's called Welcome to Arizona. And it's all about living in Arizona. So as a real estate agent, you should be following 3 to 5 accounts kind of like that, because they're going to go do all the legwork for you of oh, these are cool hikes to do in Arizona. These are cool restaurants to try. These are cool hotels. If you're going to do a staycation, and you can understand, you can look and see which of their reels are going viral, and you can say, okay, cool. I can say, okay, these are the 5 restaurants I like, and understand their content, and you can merge it into your content. But then you're going to have them opt into your funnel by having them download a free guide of how to live like a local. Someone that's downloading that is thinking about moving to Arizona. Even if they're not thinking about moving to Arizona, they live in Arizona. They're going to appreciate you helping them. They're consuming your content. They will refer you to other people. So that's one lead magnet that you need to have, is a community guide. The other lead magnet that I really like is a new construction guide. New construction is a really fun lead magnet to play with on Instagram. And you would say, okay, what are the keywords I need to be posting about in order to get people to download a new construction guide? One of the reasons people buy new construction is a lot of times you can get a better interest rate on new construction, and you can really like build out a timeline. Maybe they're looking 8 or 9 months down the road, and they like that. And so new construction, I like to talk about things you can negotiate inside of new construction. I like to talk about having a low interest rate. One of the phrases I might use is how to have a low interest rate in 2025. That might be the hook on my reel. And the video might be me walking through a model home. And then in the caption, I'm going to talk about like, hey, if interest rate is really, really important to you, you do want to look at new construction because these builders are doing such volume that they have preferred lenders and they can negotiate down bulk interest rates with those lenders. And so when you can package that up and tell the consumer that, that's really important. That saves them a couple $100s every single month, and they might just not know that. But if you sit and talk about that all of the time, you'll start to become the new construction agent in your area. So we have like a community guide, a new construction guide. The other one I love is how to hire a realtor. You can talk about this. These are the questions to ask before you hire your realtor. So those are all the headlines, but you can see how if you have, these 3 to 4 lead magnets, it's also how much is your home worth and schedule a showing. Your website should have them be able to schedule a showing. So those are like the lead magnets. And then I'm using keywords everywhere to determine which phrases people are already searching for. I'm not telling people what to search for. I'm not coming up with that on my own. Google will tell us. Google has all of that data. They know what people are searching for. Just go and look and see what they're searching for, and then package your content up in a way that aligns with those searches. And that's how you start to go quote unquote viral inside your niche, right? And all of this starts to then shift. The number one thing though that I think agents like trip up on is I don't know how to show up on video. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to show up on video. And one of the phrases I would tell you is stop being so casual about it. If Instagram actually has the ability to bring in 10 million in production for you every year, which it absolutely does have because I'm doing that in part-time hours, then why don't you just take it seriously? Why don't you treat it like that? Why don't you act like you care? And the reason you act like you don't care is because it's like a self-preservation mechanism, because then you can be like, well, I don't really care. And so it didn't really work out, but you didn't really try. And so the fact that it didn't really work out, it like softens that blow for you, like psychologically. But then you still don't even get the result that you want, right? And we actually see this with teenagers so much. And maybe sometimes it's easier when you look at it like in a teenager's perspective. We see these teenagers all the time like, I don't care. Oh, I don't care. It's not a big deal. I don't care. And I'm like, well, it is a big deal. That is rude. Like what your friend did was actually rude. It is rude to do that. And you should care. And it is reasonable that it hurt your feelings. And it's okay to act like it hurt your feelings. But if you just act like it didn't hurt your feelings and somehow it like reduces that rejection. And I see the same thing in agents where they're just like, oh, I don't care. Well, you do care. So maybe just act like you do care and be a little bit extra in how you show up, and you'll probably get better results, right? But you have to overcome yourself in that process. So we talk about like what types of footage should you film. I like to call it B-roll footage, which is kind of like behind the scenes, like what's going on. Because you're right, you do have a full-time job. You're closing and negotiating transactions. You are not like a media personality. I understand that. So you have to figure out a way to make it work inside of that schedule, right? So you might have footage of you like on a laptop and typing on a laptop. Agents should be at their desks working. So show a visual of that. Your clients want to see like, oh, Amy's working, right? Because when they see you out and about and at the pool, or they see you at the ball game, or they see you wherever, they don't connect that you're a real estate agent. But if you're showing up on their phone at 7 o'clock at night when they're scrolling, oh, Amy was at her computer today doing this, that becomes what they think of when they see you, okay? So some types of footage. You on a laptop, you might have you like driving through a neighborhood. It's really fun to like show exterior of homes and say, this is what $1 million looks like in Phoenix, Arizona. And I know so many people be like, oh my gosh, well, I can't show the exterior. Like I can't show that on my Instagram. And want to let you know that Google Maps already exists. And if you Google an address and you go for the street view, I can stand in front of any house, theoretically, in the United States. I can stand in front of that house and I can turn around and get a 360 view. So you driving through a neighborhood probably really isn't an issue. You might have you at a desk, getting out of your car, talking on your phone. I like to kind of create sets inside of my brain so I don't have to keep thinking of like what I'm going to film. And if you want to act like you really care, I'll tell you how extra I am and the things that I have done so that I can justify you betting on yourself. Is you can go on like, I think it's peerspace.com, but you can like rent out a house for a couple of hours and go and film content in that. So like walking around the house, look like you're staging a house. You can film yourself inside of those houses and then have I call it like a bank of videos, so that anytime I go to post, I have 100 videos of me inside of luxury homes. And so I can use those anytime it comes time to post. What happens with agents is a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, I have to post something. I don't know what to post. And you don't have this library of captions or this bank of videos. And so you end up posting some ridiculous, just sold, refer me to your friends. And it's like literally no one cares. No one cares because you're not solving their problem. You're not solving their problem at all. Like, why should they care? Whereas if you just go and like rent the space where you can show up and go and film yourself, and this is what's so great is like you've scheduled it in. So you can put your makeup on, have your hair done, be dressed, bring 5 or 10 outfits, have your husband go with you or your partner or a friend that's also an agent, and help each other and film all the content. And then you always have video to post. So often people are like, well, I posted that once, I can't ever post it again. And really the rule of marketing is that someone has to see it 7 times. So, and an Instagram reel really only lives about 48 hours is kind of its peak. And so you can post that same video 30 days from now. I literally last week posted a video that I took 4 years ago. The video is 4 years old, but it always performs well. So why wouldn't I keep using it? Like, it always performs well. So when you just have like a library of footage, you never get stuck feeling like I don't know what to post. Okay, a couple of more things is you want to look at your analytics every single week. Understand if you're posting every day, every single week, you want to know which 1 or 2 posts perform the best and take note of that. And here's what happens is you're like, well, Amy, that is like so extra. Yeah, it's extra. Of course it's extra. But here's where it matters is my social media account has grown in such a way that I have more followers than than my brokerage. I have my license at eXp Realty, and it's the top brokerage in the entire world. And me as one agent, I have more followers than my broker. That's crazy. But that is the power of social media. So you should just act like you care. And you should say, okay, I'm going to spend 18 minutes every single day studying Instagram. And what if you did that every single day? I mean, listening to this podcast is your 18 minutes. And here's why it matters. 15%, that's the amount of a message people remember 3 days later when it's delivered without a visual, versus 65%. And that's the amount of a message people remember 3 days later when it's delivered with a visual. When you show up on social media, you are not only getting name recognition, but you also are getting facial recognition. So you want to set up these little mini funnels inside your Instagram account and point to them every single day, and it will build this massive momentum inside your business. Here's something else to hang on to. 87% of home purchases are influenced by women, and they love being on Instagram. Instagram's goal is to keep people on the app as long as possible. So when you start creating this really cohesive environment for your dream client, they will love you forever and be so grateful that you made solving their problem easy, fun, attainable. They knew what to do next, and they trust you because they've sat and watched you for hours on end. Hope this helps you inside of your Instagram strategy the next coming weeks. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Amy Gregory Show, and we'll see you next week.